I'm Bob Harris. Welcome to the Duraamen Educational Series. In this video, we're going to discuss the relaunch of a product that is called Pentimento. Earlier generation of Pentimento required the material to be rolled down. You would then hand trowel it, and then at the opportune time, you would go back out on spiked knee boards and you would have to second trowel that material. With this formulation here, if you choose to, it only requires one trowel. So we'll show you, demonstrate how to roll it down. We'll hit it with a trowel. We'll show you some color fast product to marble in some accent colors. And only if you desire to get a real smooth surface, you can go back out and second trowel it, but it's not mandatory. So let's get started. We're getting ready for the first application of the Pentimento system, which is the prime coat of CP1000. Real quick, refer back to the Duraamen website for proper surface preparation regarding cracks, concrete surface profile, bolt holes prior to putting any self-leveling or cementitious topping down. So what we're going to do, we've prepared our boards here. We have a simulated crack that we've repaired, and now we're going to apply our first coat of CP1000. So for the prime coat, you use it neat, meaning you don't thin it down with water. So we're going to apply a liberal amount of the CP1000 on large jobs. It's perfectly acceptable to dump the material or pour the material right out of the 5-gallon bucket and have a secondary worker with a mop. I know that sounds a little crude, but we want a good prime coat of that first coat. So you can mop the CP1000 down. If you're working in a smaller area, you can dip and roll, but it is crucial that you get that first application saturated down into the porosity of the concrete. So this system as a prime coat requires always a minimum of 2 applications. So you must always apply 2 coats, and in some cases, if the substrate is very porous, it may require a 3rd coat. The goal is to completely seal off the substrate to the point where it looks like you've put a gloss or a semi-gloss sealer on the concrete. So generally, we want a minimum of 4 to 6 hours from the time you've applied that first application of CP1000 before you can move to the next step, which is the application of the Pentimento. So to recap, minimum 2 coats of CP1000, sometimes on a highly porous substrate, 3 coats, and once that second and or 3rd coat is dry, you're ready to move on to the application of the Pentimento. Let's show you how it's done. Okay. We've just finished applying our first coat of CP1000. To recap, we're using it neat out of the bucket, meaning not thinned with water. And now 4 hours needs to transpire, and after that 4-hour window of opportunity, we'll come back and apply our second coat of CP1000. All right, 4 hours has transpired from the first application of the CP1000, and we're getting ready to apply our second application of the CP1000. Remember, this is a small job, so we're just kind of dumping it on the surface. On a much larger surface, you're going to dump it right out of the bucket, and you can use a mop to apply the material. And you can see the first coat did a decent job of sealing the substrate. However, it's definitely asking for the second coat. So on a board like this, we may even go with that 3rd coat option based on if it's sealed off or not, appropriately. Roughly 4 hours has transpired, and our second coat of CP1000 is now dry. It's tack-free. More importantly, you can see the sheen that we have. Remember, we want the surface or the substrate to look like it's sealed concrete. It should have a semi-gloss or up to a gloss appearance. We talked about the mix ratio. It's always 4 parts CP1000 to 1 part water is the mixture ratio. Pentimento comes in a 45-pound bag, so it's always a minimum 1 gallon to 45 pounds of Pentimento. We do have our additional 4 ounces here, if need be, to add to the mix, depending on the ambient and substrate temperatures. So we have our 1 gallon of already mixed 4-to-1 ratio of CP1000. Let's go mix this up. We're getting ready to mix up our Pentimento, so we're always going to start with a ratio of 4 parts CP1000 to 1 part water. So the ratio never changes, 4 to 1, 4 parts CP1000. So although this is not enough, this is for demonstration purposes, you can see 4-to-1 here. So what we do is, we choose the volume that we want. So I've filled up the CP1000 to the 4 right there. So now I'm simply going to add water up to this 4, and that makes it 4 parts CP to 1 part water. So obviously you can get a bucket with bigger ratios. And there we have it, 4 parts CP1000 to 1 part water. You don't want to deviate from that because it affects the performance of the troweling and how the material lays down. So always maintain that 4-to-1. So from here, we're going to go ahead and make up a larger batch, and the mix ratio is approximately 1 gallon of 4-to-1 to 1 bag of Pentimento. Sometimes if you need just a little additional, you can add 4 ounces additional. So the mix ratio is 1 gallon of mixed 4-to-1 to 1 bag of Pentimento, or 1 gallon 4 ounces to 1 bag of Pentimento. Pentimento is offered in either a gray base or a white base. And if you look at the ColorFast color chart, today for this video we're going to be pouring Pentimento gray. So this would be the color chart for Pentimento. So there's a really interesting coloring system that's called ColorFast Color. And if you look at the colors on this chart, this is based on a 1 cup pigment load or ColorFast load, meaning you can see we have 1 cup here. So what I would do is I would scoop in 1 cup. If I'm doing production pouring, say we're mixing 30 or 40 bags, I like to strike off with a stick or a level just to make sure that we're getting consistent batches from batch to batch. So you don't want to have a little bit where it's too low or it's mounded. So just keep it uniform. And what we'll do is, based off of this color chart, we're going to use functional gray, 1 cup, and we're going to put the 1 cup of functional gray ColorFast into our pre-batched CP1000 over there, and we're going to mix that for several minutes to make sure it's good and mixed up. And then once we've pre-mixed the ColorFast into the CP1000, it's time to mix our Pentimento. So what we'll do is dump the CP1000 into our mixing bucket, then put 1 cup of ColorFast color into the mixing bucket, mix that up for several minutes, and then we'll go ahead and add the Pentimento gray into that pre-tinted CP1000, and we're ready to pour. So as an option, you can get some very interesting effects using the same ColorFast color, perhaps in a different color for some contrast, and you can really get over the top looking floors with a marbleized effect, almost like a metallic epoxy, believe it or not, and it's all cement based. So let's demonstrate how that's done. All right, we have our 1 gallon of 4-to-1 ratio, 4 parts CP1000 to 1 part water in the metal bucket, and we're getting ready to mix our functional gray ColorFast pigment. So if you remember on the color chart, the colors listed on that color chart are based on 1 cup of pigment. So we're gonna put it in the 4-to-1 mixture, and we're gonna give it a mix for at least a minute. We wanna make sure it's all mixed up thoroughly. All right, we're ready to mix our Pentimento. We have our CP1000 that's been tinted, and we're ready to go. Just a quick observation, having an appropriate mixing station is very, very crucial. You need to protect the surrounding areas. You have to keep the floor that you're about to microtop, you have to keep that floor free of debris and dust. So make sure that you position the mixing station far enough away from the actual installation so we don't have residual dust get onto the floor. So just as important as putting the successful floor down, it's just equally important to protect the surrounding area for your clients, and it just shows professionalism as well. So be prepared, have all the bags cut open, ready to go. Obviously too, in the warmer parts of the year, it's good to keep all of your materials cool, and if possible, don't mix in the direct sunlight. Mix in a shaded area or a cool location. So like always on all cement-based topping applications, safety is important. Non-absorbent gloves, wear a dust mask at a minimum to protect dust, airborne dust from going into your lungs. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to mix our Pentimento right now. All right, Normally what we want to do is take about approximately half a bag of Pentimento, put it into the bucket, gently spin it just to kind of start mixing it up. And then once that's mixed thoroughly, go ahead and put the remaining mixture into the bucket. Always have a margin trowel so you can scrape the residual material that's accumulated on the side of the bucket. It's not a bad idea to do what's called an induction period. And once you've got the mixture close to your desired consistency or viscosity, go ahead and let it set for 30 or 40 seconds. And what happens is in that time frame, it allows the cement particles to fully absorb and saturate out. And then you can put your final last, remember we talked about 1 gallon, 4 ounces, that mix ratio. You can go ahead and boost it to your desired consistency. And after that, say 45-second induction period, you're ready to go onto the floor. Alright, you see the vortex right here? Sometimes you'll see a little bubble up here, right there. That's about the right consistency. We want about a dime-sized little bubble right there. If that grows bigger than, say, a dime, maybe to a quarter or a $half size, you've watered it or put too much liquid in. But that's about what we're shooting for, is that little dime-sized bubble right there is the perfect viscosity for this material. All right, this is how we're going to put the Pentimento down with a turbo roller. It's 9 inches in width by an 1/8 inch in depth. You can see here that it won't fit tight on this roller cage. So one of two things, you can either just expand the roller cage so it fits tight, or you can take duct tape. There you go. See how that's fitting tight now? And we're ready to start putting down the Pentimento. Okay, we're gonna dump a ribbon of the Pentimento onto our floor. Just a word of caution, obviously on an actual project, remember we talked about the importance of keeping the substrate clean. It's a good idea to go ahead and wear plastic lined booties to keep the floor clean. We're going to show you a couple of coloring options. You can use these coloring methods or not. So this could be the primary color with no additional accent color. But one quick, easy way to get very nice color variation is to take the color fast. This happens to be Kindle charcoal, and I'm just going to put it right into the ribbon. We don't want to get this onto the substrate, so try to keep it right in the ribbon here. And then what we're going to do is blend it in. It gives you a really nice effect. Quick and easy. So my main goal is to get the material down into place quickly, and then I'm going to come back and refine the depth to make sure we're at the proper depth. Okay, now I've got it roughed in. I come back. And pull it. I'm applying maybe 2 pounds pressure to the turbo roller. So you can see I need a little material over here. So I'm going to steal over here. Very nice self-leveling properties. Very nice. And I dumped just about the appropriate amount for a half a board. So now what I'd like to show you is one other coloring option. Once again, pour a little ribbon across there. Then I'm going to roll it down, and we're going to hand broadcast color into the mix. So you can kind of control how much or how little you would like in a designated area. The way that we're putting this material down, we're putting it down at 1/8 of an inch thick. If you choose to, you could use a traditional gauge rake that has the cams set to the desired depth, okay, for more self-leveling properties. And you never want to exceed 3/16 of an inch deep. The turbo roller really puts it down at the appropriate thickness. All right, we're about right where we want to be. A little bit in this corner. Looks really good. Now, as an alternative coloring method, this is where you can hand broadcast. What you have to be very careful about is clumping it. You don't want to clump it. So you can see I'm holding it in my hand and shaking it, as opposed to throwing a big clump like that, which is what you don't want to do. It's really important to note that on this coloring method, a little bit goes a long way. I really like the first method that we showed you, which is broadcasting the powder, the Color Fast powder, into the ribbon, because it just gives it a very organic look. Kind of personal preference. So when you're actually putting it down, you need to work in unison with a team member. So for best results, if you're only one troweling it, meaning just hitting it one time like I'm about to do, while one person is rolling, say, a 3-foot wide path, you'll have a second person, like I'm positioned myself right here with knee pads, following whoever is rolling. Or you could go back out with spiked knee boards. So, or boards that are elevated up above the material so it doesn't suction onto the material. Now, we want to use a flat trowel, something that doesn't have a lot of give or flex to it, because we're trying to put down a nice smooth surface. So I'm just going to come in here, and my goal is 2 things: to just simply lay it flat and then blend the color. So you'll notice what I'm doing. I don't do the traditional concrete finishers half moon like this. We don't want to see a floor that has the half moon. So I'm trying to blend the color. And you notice I'm moving the trowel. You can see the streak, so I'm going to go perpendicular, and all of a sudden it has a beautiful organic mottled look. Now I'm going to work my way down on where I hand broadcast. I love this look, and to be able to get this look for a microtopping that's only 1/8 of an inch thick is pretty dynamic. So here's where I broadcast. You can see it's a lot more intense in color, and it's really a matter of personal preference. The cool thing is I can blend it. So if I have too much here, I can steal the color here and perhaps add some there, okay? And blend it out. Trying to get my edges here so that's all tight. You see how I'm going in opposing directions to blend the color. What's different about this formulation than previous formulations of Pentimento is the fact of the self-leveling properties that this formulation has. Much different. So really, there's no reason for me to even consider second troweling. For the purpose of this video, probably here in the next hour, maybe we'll show you how to second trowel, but this product has just dynamite self-leveling properties. All right, this formulation is much easier than past formulations because every time we would have had to have on previous applications go back out on the spiked knee boards, but this laid down beautifully. This is very flat, and really there's no reason to go back out on it a second time unless there's a particular color blend that you'd want to go back out and try to hit. But simple, one time to trowel, and some pretty stunning results. All right, roughly 25 minutes has elapsed, and again, this could be a great surface. Come back the following day and run a 100, maybe a 120 grit sanding screen real quick, just to knock anything out. Really no need to second trowel it. However, for demonstration reasons, we want to show you. Like I said, about 25 minutes has elapsed. Most of the surface moisture is dissipated off, and I don't know if the camera can see. This is customary up against the wall. You can kind of see a low spot. So this is one reason that if you chose to retrowel, you could come in and you could kind of fix some of these areas. So I'll demonstrate here by getting more cream. And here, one last time also, if I choose to, I can come in and blend the color even better. See how I just filled those trowel marks here? Now I'm applying quite a bit of pressure. This is almost now getting to where it becomes almost like a polished surface. Pretty slick. You don't want to overdo it. Get on it and then get right off of it. All right, if you're working off of knee boards, you always want to start at the knee board and finish back behind the knee board. What I mean is don't reach out here like this because I've just left a line. So always start either from behind it and finish behind it. And you're gonna always have to come back and get the spike marks off from the knee boards. So I'll show you. You can see a little spike mark there, here. So we need to get rid of that. If you choose to second trowel like I'm doing right here for demonstration purposes, you have to have a team that's pretty confident at troweling the surface quickly, okay? Because time is of the essence. You don't have a lot of time, but you can see the end result when you go back out and re-trowel. Gives it a very smooth surface. Okay, you can see two entirely different looks on the Pentimento. Over here, we had where we just broadcast the color fast into the ribbon and then used the roller to mix it up. On this side, we broadcast it into the fresh Pentimento and then troweled that. Two different looks. So again, the next day we'll come back and we'll use like a 120 grit sanding screen. Real quick, just real fast over the floor. Clean that up, the residual dust, and then you're ready to go to the next step, which is either, if you choose to, you can use a stain, an acid stain, or you could use a deso dye to get additional accents and highlights as another coloring alternative. And then you can seal it. So you can use a typical water-based acrylic sealer. You can use epoxies, urethanes, polyaspartics. So for more on sealers, visit the Duraamen website, and good luck with the Pentimento application.